Welcome to Plugged Into Long Island on 102.3 WBAB, Long Island's only classic rock, and 106.1 BLI, Long Island's #1 for all the hits. Plugged Into Long Island is a half-hour interview program focusing on Long Island area issues. It's heard Sunday mornings at 6 a.m. and is available as a podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Plugged Into Long Island is produced by the Cox Media Group of Long Island's Community Affairs team right here at our studios in West Babylon. I'm Alex, your host for today's episode. Let me introduce our guests for today. Daria Teller, President of Executive Alliance, Doug Wald, Senior Vice President of Recruiting and Strategy of Executive Alliance, and Aaron Frenchman, Senior Vice President of Recruiting and Customer Experience of Executive Alliance. Thank you guys so much for joining me here today.
Thank you so much for having us on.
So, Daria, what exactly is Executive Alliance?
So Executive Alliance is a staffing solution. We're a full service staffing agency and we're across every industry. Our team basically delivers temp, perm, and contract positions. And then beyond staffing, we're consultants, we're mentors, we're very well-connected networkers that basically create a successful partnership for businesses and candidates alike.
So the nice thing about Executive Alliance, right, is you're connecting job seekers and businesses together. So you have that intimate knowledge of what's going on in the workplace all across Long Island. And I'd love to talk about some of the trends affecting Long Island businesses and workers. And I feel like one of the best places to start is with legislation. Legislation affects both the employers and the employee, after all, and there's been some legislation in New York State recently that I'd like to know how it affects both of these parties here, starting with the amendment to something called the New York State Fair Credit Reporting Act. What exactly was this change, and how does it affect both sides?
Yeah, Alex, the act essentially protects workers at most levels from having their personal credit data illegally shared or accessed. We're seeing a lot of security issues, not just on Long Island, but throughout the country and globally. So aside from the privacy piece, there's also the discriminatory piece, where, candidates might feel discriminated against based on what their credit ratings are, what their financial standing is, or that act also extends into legal practices around legal actions, convictions that might no longer be on their records. So they're trying to strike a balance between protecting candidates, their privacy, their data, and their legal standing and credit standing. And then there are some exemptions in that law where for people in law enforcement or like high level fiduciary responsibilities, people that own government contracts and sign off on government contracts for millions and millions of dollars. So that's really the only exemption we see with the Fair Credit Reporting Act. But they were trying to really strike a balance between fairness for candidates and making sure that data isn't getting in the wrong hands of the wrong people and things of that nature. So that's the advent of why that law came to practice.
When the new year began, minimum wage was raised on Long Island to $17 an hour. What has been the effect on employers and employees with these constant wage increases?
Yeah, there's advantages to employees. Obviously, they want to make more money and seek higher wages. The state wage hike also puts pressure on employees to manage their costs for goods and services while maintaining continuity for their businesses to have strong employees, strong teams, and build and drive growth. We're seeing a lot of fluctuation today with different trade conversations or inflation conversations or fluctuations in currencies. There's a lot of different ingredients that go into it, right? So for Long Island in particular, Long Island, we're seeing that, and the competition with New York City, for talent. There's cost of living differentials. There's the two different regions, and we work with our Long Island clients and advise them on, if it's not a monetary difference for wage hikes, and they vary, Alex, and because a lot of our stuff is B2B, we work with businesses, but some of these also work with contract roles, hospitality workers, things of that nature that might be a little bit different in terms of how we approach it. But yeah, so we advise our clients about best ways to stay competitive, beyond the wage, right? So whether it's
Packages,
PTO,
right.
PTO packages, benefit packages, culture, learning and development opportunities. It's not always about the money, believe it. I mean,
Right.
until it's about the money, right? But we try and advise our Long Island clients about best ways to stay competitive while they're managing their margins, while they're managing their costs, and there's certainly other thoughts that we have on it as well.
Yeah, I mean, Long Island, anyone listening that lives here, has lived here, works here, knows Long Island is a very, very expensive place to live.
For sure. Yeah.
Minimum wage has to be on the high end of the scale. If not, you're going to lose workers. But this is where we come in more as consultants and less as recruiters, because we're really not recruiting for these particular jobs. I mean, we're advising our clients as a service to help them, but they're not saying, okay, well, now you know your budget, go find me these workers. Hourly minimum wage workers are not jobs that normally we're filling, because I mean, imagine adding a 20% fee to a $17 an hour worker.
Right. The financial health of the business then is at stake. So we really do a lot of consulting for them, where we'll explain to them that there are other things that you can offer, like Doug said, to a candidate. There are other packages that you could be giving, beyond the minimum wage, where it would be compelling for someone to continue to work on Long Island and not make that commute into the city, because that it does happen. There's a lot of times that the salary is higher in the city. Yep. And so, they have to be cognizant of what the traffic will bear as far as, as a candidate that's out here and what their needs are.
And again, if you're just tuning in here to Plugged into Long Island on 102.3 WBAB and 106.1 BLI, Alex here speaking with Daria Teller, Doug Wald, and Aaron Frenchman of Executive Alliance. And COVID feels like forever ago, but we're still seeing the ripple effects of it in the workplace today, especially in things like work from home and the rubber band back to return to work. What does the industry trend look like in terms of this return to work, and how are the expectations different now?
It varies from industry to industry. I mean, some industries are built pre-COVID to remote work. If you're a large national company or a large regional company, and historically you've had remote workers, that really hasn't changed. But, what I have found speaking with clients, that the work from home aspect is certainly falling out of favor with employers. It's still a very desirable
for sure
thing for employees. Yeah. And going back earlier, that's one of those carrots that companies can keep to draw employees. All right, well, we'll figure out a work from home or a hybrid schedule. But I have found that since we're over COVID, the longer we get from that, the more companies want their employees in office. Most, business owners or business leaders I speak to feel that not only is it better for productivity, but corporate culture has been lacking. Once people all went remote for COVID, you lost that culture aspect, and people want to bring it back. So I think whether the numbers bear it out or not, business owners and leaders especially feel like having their people in office just breeds better business.
Yeah, better energy.
Yeah, Alex, and one thing related to Aaron's point is, there's a lot of social data around that since COVID, right? You're seeing, especially younger workers getting into the workforce out of the gate. Where are those learning and development opportunities, outside of culture, right? And so culture is important, but, where are the learning and development opportunities? Where are those one-on-ones with your managers? Where are those team building exercises? Where are those different things that kind of went away with COVID or were diminished through COVID? And when you build those learning and development opportunities, those cultural opportunities, it builds a better foundation for company culture. It builds better continuity. It builds better, just communication models, things like that. So So I think the companies are seeing a lot of that data and want to bring that stuff back. And hybrid, is working from a lot of my clients sit in tech and software and media. Go figure, right? So that they've enjoyed kind of that hybrid model, but you're seeing leadership teams and executive teams want to bring that connectivity back, right? Where they kind of lost it, and how mature that particular company might have been at communicating or outreach or checking in on their employees that might be remote. So you're starting to see that shift kind of come back and center a little bit around the programs that are going to be important to company success and growth, right? So that's something that we're seeing as well.
And I think we're at an odd crossroads right now, where companies are definitely pushing that, where, again, especially the younger generations of candidates are still digging their heels in. So we're at an odd point right now where, no, I want to work remote. Well, we don't do that anymore. Mm-hmm. So, and I've seen it in negotiations where candidates have walked away from opportunities.
From great opportunities.
And companies have kind of walked away from really good candidates because they won't come off this point. So, it's going to be interesting over the next year or two where kind of the give and take goes, what direction.
Another development post-COVID has been the widespread application of AI. What type of impact has AI had in the hiring process, both from an employer and employee perspective?
Well, there's several things that have come up with AI. And, right now, a lot of the clients have these assessments that are AI generated. So a lot of the employees, when they're sort of going in and they're seeing if they could be, a potential candidate, there's assessment tests that they're taking. They're using AI to fix their resume. So they're taking basically the job spec and they're mirroring it onto their resume and having AI write it. So AI has its good points and has its I don't want to say bad. It's not bad. It's just things that need to be worked out. So there are a lot of developments with AI that I think are helpful for companies. And I think some of it is, a little harmful for the employees because they're not really seeing the value of it just yet. I think it's still new to everybody, even though it's been around. I think people still look at it as something new. And you know how people feel about new things. It isn't always something that's embraced.
Yeah, and one thing, Alex, related to that is also the vibe of AI, right? You're seeing a lot of noise. You're seeing a lot of chatter, doom scrolling and, things that you're seeing on the job boards and such. And I think that, to Daria's point, AI is definitely an effective tool for helping with researching companies, with looking at salary scales, with looking at, what's out there in a competitive sense, right? Doing your research and leveraging AI tools for improving resumes, improving LinkedIn profiles. I think, some counsel we provide to our candidates and companies too is, avoid the chatter, avoid the noise. If you still, targeted, if you're still effective in your communication, if you're still, not putting your applications in the black hole of doom, right? If you're connecting with networking groups and associations and hiring managers and, doing the old school stuff that, actually is still, tried and true, right? So I think, AI has created a lot of shroud, kind of to Daria's point, around uncertainty, certain things. We hear this a lot from college graduates that just get out of school going, all right, AI is taking my job, how do I feel about it? So I think that, there's a lot of still adoption taking place in AI. It's still in its early infancies of practical use, right? I mean, everybody's been developing an AI for 5 years, 6 years, 10 years, Watson, IBM, right? So, but who's hitting the road, right? Where's the rubber hitting the road with AI? We encourage people to become AI curious, to play with the tools, play with Anthropic, play with Claude, play with whatever, right? So that's something we encourage, but we really try and help people, get through that chatter and get through that noise and give them what's happening today, what will be happening tomorrow, and try and provide some color around that. So, but that's an important point.
And I mean, like anything else, a lot of it comes down to the individual. AI is amazing if it's used correctly. And like any other technology, I mean, we went through this with the internet, we went through this with computers. Anytime there is a major technological addition, improvement, whatever you want to call it, some people, the people who are predisposed to using things to make themselves better, are going to find those ways to do it. And you'll always have people who use technology to find ways to cut corners. And I think that also goes back to the back in office, back in more tight communication with your company, because oversight needs to be there. And anyone who uses AI regularly, I mean, you can also tell. If you're good,
Yeah, for sure.
you can tell what's AI generated right now and what's not. I have a creative aspect to what I do, and I see other, whether it's other recruiting firms or clients or whatever, try to use AI for those purposes, but they all use the same thing. So now it winds up, everyone who uses AI puts out the same,
Right, it's cookie cutter.
the same product. And again, it's a lazy way out sometimes if it's used incorrectly.
And again, if you're just tuning in here to Plugged Into Long Island on 102.3 WBAB and 106.1 BLI, Alex here, speaking with Daria Teller, Doug Wald, and Aaron Frenchman of Executive Alliance. And I'd love to talk about some of the public outreach initiatives Executive Alliance has taken part in. Recently, you visited Half Hollow Hills West High School to talk to some of the students there. What was this all about?
Well, you know, we want to get involved in the community and continue to do that. We got to speak to a really, really great cross section of students. You know, Half Hollow Hills is close to my heart. Both of my children are alumni. But we got to speak to a great cross section where we had students who were going to high-level universities, all the way down, or not down, all the way across the spectrum to students who were going right into the workforce. And just to be able to give them a forum and give them some instruction, you know, a lot of times those kids who are jumping right into the workforce or going to a trade school, who are not going the Ivy League adjacent route, feel like they're not doing it right. And we're kind of there to let them know that there is a place for all of those people. And sometimes the decision to go right into the workforce is the right decision for that individual. So we really get to, you know, speak to them and be a resource to, you know, to, again, a group of young people who don't know if what they're thinking is, and I'm using air quotes you can't see, the right decision. So just to be able to be there for a resource, and maybe one kid from every session comes out of it and goes, it's okay to go to trade school. It's okay to jump right into the workforce. You know, I don't have to go away to an expensive college and spend 4 years just to come out and still not know what I'm doing or what I want to do or what speaks to me. So I think getting involved in those type of community conversations, just, it helps generations. And, you know, if we're not appealing to the young people on Long Island, those young people aren't going to stay on Long Island.
And before we wrap up today, Executive Alliance also hosts its own podcast for public outreach, the Higher Authority podcast. What's talked about on this podcast and who do you have on it?
Yeah, higher authority, it was kind of born out of, Alex, kind of a lot of the conditions in the market lately. Uncertainty, AI, different things. So we really speak a lot about these topics that we're discussing today with you, right? So a lot of it's around, we try and split between providing business counsel to hiring companies that are looking to hire stronger talent. What do their industries look like? What do their strengths look like? Things of that nature. And we also provide a lot of counsel to candidates that are job seekers now at all ages, right? They could be, as we've spoken about, kids out of school, recent college graduates, to 20-year IT veterans that are transitioning into different roles or just got restructured or things of that nature. So we really try and provide on the ground insight to a lot of different audiences that are that we work with, right? So it could be some of the legislative stuff that we discussed. It could be some of the technology trends that we're seeing, market trends, labor trends. So we try and cover a lot of different things. We put out our podcasts almost weekly.
Yeah.
We produce them weekly, and we're on basically every streaming platform out there for the most part. So, but it's something that's important to us, and part of what Daria mentioned about giving back to the communities. We're not compensated for it. It's something that we do. We enjoy talking about these types of topics. We enjoy supporting communities and businesses and candidates alike. So, and it's a full stream of consciousness of all the different topics that are out there,
Right.
and just to try and provide some level of certainty in an uncertain world, right? So that's something that we try to do, weekly, and we're enjoying it. It's been a lot of fun.
And where can people go to keep in touch with what Executive Alliance does in the future?
So you can visit us on LinkedIn under Executive Alliance, or you can contact us directly at info@execsallied.com. We're also, like Doug said, we're also on X, we're on TikTok, we have a YouTube channel. Everything is under Executive Alliance, so you can really find us there.
And our website, execsallied.com, EXECS allied.com is our website. So hit us up there as well.
Once again, execsallied.com. I'd like to thank you guys so much for joining me here today.
Thanks, Alex.
Thanks,
Thank
Alex.
you so much.
I
It's been
appreciate it.
wonderful.
This has been Plugged into Long Island on 102.3 WBAB, Long Island's only classic rock, and 106.1 BLI, Long Island's #1 for all the hits. Plugged into Long Island is a half-hour interview program focusing on Long Island area issues. It airs Sunday mornings at 6 a.m. and is available as a podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Plugged into Long Island is produced by the Cox Media Group of Long Island's Community Affairs team right here at our studios on Long Island.